They said she was just confused. They said the dog was just stubborn. But when emergency responders tried to separate them, the dog growled for the first time in his life. Before we begin, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and tell us in the comments, where are you watching from? These stories travel farther than you think. Everyone in the neighborhood knew Margaret Ellison, or at least they thought they did. She was the old woman who walked too slowly, the one who forgot names, the one who sometimes waved at people who weren't there, the one whose words often came out tangled, unfinished, dismissed with a polite smile. She's harmless, they said. She's just confused. Margaret was 78 years old and lived alone in a small house at the end of Willow Creek Road, a place where the sidewalks cracked with age and the trees leaned inward as if listening. Her husband had passed away 12 years earlier. Her children lived states away. Her world had grown quiet, except for one presence. A German shepherd named Rex. Rex wasn't a puppy. His muzzle was graying now, his movements slower than they once were. But his eyes, sharp, steady, endlessly watchful, missed nothing. Margaret called him her shadow. He followed her from room to room, waited outside the bathroom door, sat beside her chair while she slept. And when she forgot where she was going, Rex gently nudged her in the right direction, like he had done hundreds of times before. The doctors called it early cognitive decline, neighbors called it senility. But Rex knew something was wrong in a way no one else did. It started on a Tuesday morning. Margaret stood on her front porch in a cardigan far too thin for the cold, staring down the empty street as if she were waiting for someone who never came. Rex sat at her feet, ears angled forward, body tense. "Rex," she whispered, voice trembling. "They said not to tell anyone." She pressed a shaking hand against her chest. Rex stood. That alone was unusual. Normally, he waited, observed, measured, but now he moved closer, placing his body between Margaret and the street, a silent barrier. A delivery driver slowed his truck, watching curiously as the dog stepped directly in front of the woman, blocking her path. "Are you okay, Mum?" the driver called out. Margaret blinked, confused. I was just going..." Her voice faded. Rex let out a low, warning whine. The driver frowned. "Is the dog aggressive?" "No," Margaret said quickly. "He's protecting me." The driver smiled politely, the kind reserved for people you don't quite believe. "Well," he said gently, "maybe you should go back inside." Margaret hesitated. Rex didn't. He refused to move. That was the first time someone noticed. Later that afternoon, a neighbor named Claire knocked on Margaret's door. She found Margaret sitting on the couch, staring at the wall. Rex stood directly in front of her, unmoving. "Margaret?" Claire asked softly. The old woman turned her head slowly. "They were here again." "Who?" Margaret swallowed. "The men. They came inside last night." Claire smiled nervously. "Margaret, you were alone last night." Rex growled. Not loudly, not violently, but enough. Claire took a step back. "It's okay, boy," she said, trying to laugh it off. "She's just confused." Rex's eyes never left her. That was the moment Claire felt it, that chill crawling up her spine, because confused people don't usually make dogs act like that. By evening, word spread. Margaret had been wandering again, talking about strangers, clinging to her dog. Someone called Adult Protective Services. Just to be safe, they said. 2 officers arrived just after sunset. They were calm, professional, kind. "Ma'am," one of them said gently, "we're here to help." Margaret clutched Rex's fur. "No," she whispered, "don't make him leave." "We won't," the officer assured her. "We just need to talk." They reached for Rex's leash. That's when it happened. Rex stepped forward, planted his paws, and growled for the first time in his life. Not in fear, not in anger, in warning. The officers froze. Margaret began to cry. "Please," she begged. "He's the only one who believes me." Outside, the streetlights flickered on, and somewhere deep inside Rex, something shifted. Because whatever was happening to Margaret, whatever danger no one else could see, he knew one thing for certain. He was not leaving her. Not now. Not ever. No one noticed it at first. Not the officers. Not the neighbors. Not even Margaret herself. But Rex noticed everything. That night, after the officers left and the street grew quiet again, Margaret sat at the kitchen table with her hands folded, staring at nothing. The kettle screamed on the stove until Rex bumped the cabinet with his nose, snapping her out of it. "Oh," she murmured, "I forgot again." Rex didn't move away from her side. He stayed close, closer than usual. Every time Margaret shifted in her chair, Rex adjusted his position. Every time she paused too long, his ears flicked. Every time her breathing changed, his body tensed. This wasn't routine, this was memory. Rex had not always belonged to Margaret. Before the small yellow house, before the quiet mornings, before the slow walks and forgotten names, Rex had worn a vest once, a heavy black vest with reflective letters stitched across the side. Therapy and support. K9 unit. Margaret didn't talk about that part of his life much. Not because she didn't want to, but because the memories came tangled, fragmented, like photos shuffled out of order. But Rex remembered. He remembered hospitals, nursing homes, locked doors, hands that shook, voices that weren't believed, and most of all, he remembered the smell. That night, Margaret wandered from her bedroom around 2:17 a.m. She didn't know why she'd gotten up, didn't remember opening the door, didn't feel the cold tile under her feet, but Rex did. He rose instantly, placing himself in front of her, gently nudging her leg. "Not yet," she whispered, confused. "They said not to wait." Rex's ears flattened. He circled her slowly, guiding her back toward the couch. Margaret resisted. "No," she said softly. "I have to." Rex barked. Short, sharp, controlled, not loud enough to frighten her, just enough to stop her. She froze, startled, and then she sat. Rex lay at her feet, eyes never leaving her face. Minutes passed. Then Rex stood again. He walked to the front door, sniffed, returned to Margaret, sniffed her hands, her collarbone, her breath. His body stiffened. That smell again, the one he hadn't sensed in years, the one no human noticed. The next morning, Margaret woke with a bruise on her wrist she couldn't explain. Must have bumped into something, she told herself. Rex stared at it, wouldn't stop staring. When she tried to leave the house to walk to the corner store, Rex blocked the door. "Rex," she said patiently. "Move." He didn't. She raised her voice. He whined. She stepped forward. He pressed his body gently against her legs, not aggressive, not forceful, but immovable. Margaret sighed. "You're being silly." She turned away. Rex exhaled slowly. Relief. Outside, a car slowed. Claire again. She rolled down her window. "Morning, Margaret. Everything okay today?" Margaret smiled, but her eyes were distant. "I think so." Rex growled, barely audible. Claire stepped out of her car this time. "I brought you some soup," she said, holding up a container. Rex stood between them. Claire stopped. Again, that same uneasy feeling crawled up her spine. "He's very protective lately," Claire said carefully. Margaret laughed softly. "He always has been." But Rex wasn't looking at Claire. He was watching the street. By noon, the phone rang. Margaret stared at it like it was a stranger. Rex barked once. She picked it up. "Mrs. Ellison," a woman said gently. "This is Adult Services." "We're just following up from yesterday." Margaret's hand shook. Rex stood immediately. "You mentioned people coming into your home," the woman continued. "We want to make sure you're safe." Margaret opened her mouth, closed it. "I don't remember," she whispered. Rex growled. The woman paused. "Is someone with you right now?" Margaret looked down at Rex. "Yes," she said quietly. "He is." When the caseworker arrived later that afternoon, she brought a colleague. Standard procedure. 2 people. Clipboards. Soft voices. Rex didn't like that. As soon as they stepped inside, Rex positioned himself between them and Margaret, shoulder touching her leg. "Is the dog safe?" the woman asked. "Yes," Margaret said firmly. "He's safe." They smiled. They always smiled. "Mrs. Ellison," the man said, "we're concerned you might be experiencing confusion. Sometimes that means people misinterpret situations." Rex's ears lowered. Margaret blinked. "Misinterpret?" "Yes. Like believing someone is entering your home when they aren't." Rex barked, loud, sharp. Both caseworkers jumped. "I'm sorry," Margaret said quickly. "He doesn't usually—" But Rex wasn't done. He moved to the hallway, stared down it, growled, low, warning. The woman exchanged a look with her colleague. "Has anyone else been in your home recently?" she asked slowly. Margaret hesitated. "I don't know." Rex turned and stared at her, hard. Then he walked to the back door, scratched once, stopped, looked back at them. The caseworker swallowed. "Can you show us the back of the house?" she asked. Margaret stood. Rex didn't move away from her side. They walked down the hallway together, and when the caseworker saw the faint, muddy footprint just inside the back door, everything changed. The footprint shouldn't have been there. It wasn't fresh mud. It wasn't obvious. It was faint, the kind of mark most people would dismiss as old, meaningless, accidental. But Rex didn't dismiss it. He stood frozen in front of the door, body rigid, nose hovering inches from the floor. His breathing changed, slow, deliberate, controlled. The caseworker crouched down. "That's recent," she murmured. Her colleague frowned. "Mrs. Ellison, when was the last time this door was opened?" Margaret stared at the handle. "I don't remember," she said again, her voice smaller this time. Rex let out a low whine, not fear, recognition. They checked the lock. It wasn't broken. It hadn't been forced, which made it worse. The man straightened up. "Someone had a key." Margaret shook her head. "I don't give keys to anyone." Rex barked once, sharp, confirming. The caseworker exhaled slowly. "Mrs. Ellison, has anyone ever helped you with groceries, repairs, medications?" Margaret's brow furrowed. "I think there was a man," she said hesitantly. "Tall, smelled like cigarettes." Rex growled. The sound echoed down the hallway, deep and unmistakably hostile. Both caseworkers went quiet. That evening, after they left, Margaret sat on the edge of her bed, hands shaking. "I'm not crazy, am I?" she whispered. Rex rested his head on her knee. He didn't answer. He stayed. The next 3 days revealed a pattern. One no one wanted to acknowledge at first. Each morning something in the house was different. A chair moved, a cupboard slightly open, a glass missing from the sink. Small things, easy to dismiss. But Rex reacted the same way every time. He blocked doors. He followed Margaret relentlessly. He refused to sleep. At night he lay pressed against the back door, eyes open, ears twitching, waiting. On the 4th night, it happened again. The sound was subtle, a click, barely audible. Margaret didn't hear it. Rex did. He sprang to his feet, claws skidding on the tile. He didn't bark this time. He ran, straight to the hallway. Margaret woke to the sound of his growl, low, vibrating, dangerous. "Rex!" she called, heart pounding. The back door handle turned, slowly, deliberately. Rex lunged. The door burst open, and the man froze. He wasn't tall this time. He was familiar, late 40s, unshaven, wearing a hoodie pulled too low over his eyes. "Easy," the man muttered, holding up his hands. "Easy, boy." Rex didn't hesitate. He placed himself directly in front of Margaret's bedroom door, teeth bared, body angled for attack. Margaret stepped into the hallway, confused, frightened. Who are you?" The man swallowed. "I'm here to help you, Mom. Your niece sent me." Rex exploded. He charged forward, stopping inches from the man's legs, barking violently, the sound of pure warning. The man stumbled backward. "I didn't touch anything," he shouted. Rex snapped at the air, inches from skin. Margaret screamed. The man bolted. Rex chased him to the threshold, stopping only when Margaret's trembling voice cut through the chaos. "Rex, stay!" He froze instantly. The man vanished into the darkness. Police arrived within minutes. This time they didn't smile. They didn't suggest confusion. They followed Rex, because Rex knew exactly where to go. He led them straight to the back fence, where it had been quietly cut weeks earlier, and then to the alley, where a neighbor's security camera caught everything. The footage played in silence. A man entering the yard late at night, unlocking the door, walking through the house, standing in Margaret's bedroom doorway, watching her sleep. Rex appeared on screen moments later, blocking the doorway every single time. The officer paused the video. "How long has this been happening?" he asked. The neighbor's voice shook. "At least 3 weeks." Margaret covered her mouth. Rex pressed against her leg. The man was arrested the next morning. A distant relative, someone who'd learned Margaret's condition, someone who'd been waiting for her to get worse, waiting for her to forget, waiting for Rex to fail. He never did. That afternoon, a doctor sat across from Margaret. Early-stage dementia, mild, manageable, not hallucinations, not delusions, just memory gaps, the kind predators exploit. "You're lucky," the doctor said gently. Margaret looked down at Rex. "I know," she whispered. That night, Rex finally slept, curled at the foot of her bed, still alert, still guarding. Because some dogs aren't confused, they're remembering. And Rex remembered exactly how this story ends. The vest hadn't been worn in years. It lay folded inside the closet, tucked behind winter coats Margaret rarely used. Dark fabric, frayed edges, a faint patch stitched on the side. Therapy and service canine. Retired. Margaret hadn't thought about it in a long time, but Rex had. The officer noticed it first. "Mrs. Ellison, is Rex a service dog?" Margaret hesitated. He was. Years ago. Rex lifted his head, ears forward, listening. They sat at the small kitchen table while daylight spilled across the floor. Coffee went untouched. Margaret's hands shook slightly as she spoke. "Before me, Rex lived with another woman, Eleanor Price." The name landed heavy in the room. "She lived 2 towns over. Alzheimer's. Early stages, like me. Rex was assigned to her as an emotional support and safety companion." Rex rested his chin on Margaret's knee. "She didn't have family," Margaret continued softly. "Just Rex." The caseworker glanced at her notes. "What happened to her?" Margaret swallowed. "She disappeared." The word hung in the air. 3 years earlier, Eleanor Price had been found wandering barefoot near a highway at dawn, dehydrated, disoriented, terrified. Her home had been ransacked, drawers emptied, furniture overturned, but there were no signs of forced entry, and no Rex. He was gone for 2 days. When he was found, he was lying on Eleanor's bed, dehydrated, injured, refusing to move, growling at anyone who came close. They said he was aggressive. They said he was traumatized. They retired him and quietly closed the case. Margaret's voice cracked. "They never caught the man who did it." Rex's breathing changed. His tail thumped once against the floor. Anger, recognition. The officer leaned forward. "Mrs. Ellison, do you think the same person—" "Yes," Margaret whispered. "I think he learned something from Eleanor. How to enter unnoticed. How to exploit memory gaps. How to wait patiently. And when Rex came here," Margaret said, eyes filling with tears, "he recognized the pattern. That night made sense now. The blocking, the pacing, the refusal to leave. Rex wasn't confused. He was remembering." Later that afternoon, Rex was taken in for evaluation. Standard procedure. Margaret hated every second of it. "He won't bite," she said firmly. "He's protecting." The trainer knelt in front of Rex, eyes kind but sharp. "Rex," he said quietly. Rex didn't growl. He didn't bark. He sat perfectly still. The trainer exhaled slowly. "This dog has exceptional control." Then he tested him. Sudden noises, unexpected movements, simulated intrusion. Rex reacted the same way every time. Position, block, protect. Never attack unless commanded. Never panic, never abandon. The trainer stood up. "This dog shouldn't have been retired," he said. "He was doing his job." That evening, Margaret waited alone. The house felt bigger without Rex. Too quiet, too open. She sat in her chair, heart pounding at every creak. Then headlights flashed through the window. Rex was back. The moment the door opened, he walked straight to her. No excitement, no jumping, just relief. Margaret collapsed into him, sobbing. "They're not taking you," she whispered. "Never again." Rex leaned into her, steady, solid, present. But the story wasn't over, because the man who had been arrested wasn't just a thief, and Rex knew it. 2 days later, detectives returned. They had new information. The man had a history, targeting elderly women, manipulating caregivers, waiting until memory failed, and Eleanor Price's name was on his list. So was Margaret's. Rex growled, low, deadly. "You saved her," the detective said quietly. Rex didn't look at him. He looked at Margaret, because that was all that mattered. That night, Rex slept again at the foot of her bed, eyes half closed, ears still listening, because some protectors never truly retire. They just wait for the next person who needs them. The interrogation room was quiet, too quiet. The man sat with his hands cuffed in front of him, eyes fixed on the table like he could disappear into the wood grain if he stared long enough. Across the glass, Rex watched. He wasn't inside the room. He didn't need to be. His presence alone was enough. The detective leaned forward. "You want to tell us why a retired service dog recognized you the moment you stepped into that house?" The man swallowed. He said nothing. They started with Eleanor Price. Photos slid across the table. Her home, her bedroom, her medical records. "You were there," the detective said calmly. "Multiple times." The man's jaw tightened. Rex growled, not loud, not aggressive, controlled. The sound of memory. Security footage filled the screen behind him, night after night. A shadow slipping inside homes, standing still in bedrooms, watching, waiting. The detective paused the video. "And every single time," he continued, "this dog blocked the doorway." Rex's ears lifted. Recognition again. The man laughed suddenly. A dry, broken sound. "It's just a dog." The room went still. The detective didn't raise his voice. "No," he said. "It's a witness." The confession came in pieces. He had started with Eleanor, learned her routine, learned when she forgot, when she slept deeply, when she couldn't remember locking the door. He never took much, just enough to stay unnoticed, until Rex interfered. "He wouldn't stop watching me," the man muttered. "Wouldn't leave her alone." Rex let out a single sharp bark. The man flinched. After Eleanor was found wandering, disoriented and injured, the man panicked. He disappeared, changed towns, changed names, waited until Margaret. Same condition, same isolation, same vulnerability, different dog, same result. That afternoon, Margaret was called to the station. She sat quietly as the detective explained everything. The pattern, the victims, the years. Her hands shook. Rex pressed against her leg. "He was going to hurt me," she whispered. The detective nodded. "Eventually." Margaret looked down at Rex, tears spilling freely now. "You never left me," she said. Rex rested his head in her lap. 2 weeks later, the case made headlines, but not for the man, for the dog. "Retired service dog prevents serial elder abuse." The article went viral. People didn't share it because it was shocking. They shared it because it was hopeful. Rex was invited back to the training facility, not for evaluation, for recognition. The trainer stood in front of the room, voice steady. This dog was labeled aggressive, unfit, unpredictable. He paused. He was none of those things. Rex sat calmly beside Margaret. He was vigilant. They removed the old vest from storage, cleaned it, repaired it, and placed it gently back over Rex's shoulders. Service canine. Active status restored. The room erupted in applause. Rex didn't move. He didn't wag. He simply looked at Margaret, because the job wasn't about the vest. It never was. That night, Margaret cooked dinner slowly, carefully. Rex lay by the doorway, relaxed for the first time since the arrest. She placed his bowl down, then hers. They ate together, quietly, safely. Before bed, Margaret stood at the mirror. She looked older than she remembered, tired, but not alone. "I forget things," she said softly, "but I'll never forget you." Rex lifted his head. Tail thumped once. Enough. Outside, the neighborhood slept peacefully. The back fence was repaired. The door locks reinforced. But the most important guard wasn't made of metal. He breathed. He listened. He remembered. The courtroom was full, not crowded with curiosity, but heavy with silence. Margaret sat in the front row, hands folded tightly in her lap. Her breathing was shallow. The unfamiliar room, the faces, the echoing voices, it all pressed against her fragile sense of certainty. Rex sat beside her, not lying down, not restless, perfectly still, grounding her. The prosecutor stood. "Your Honor, we would like to call our next witness." There was a pause. Then words no one expected to hear in that order. "The service dog." A ripple moved through the courtroom. The judge raised an eyebrow. "On what grounds?" The prosecutor's voice was calm. "Pattern recognition and behavioral evidence." Silence again. Then the judge nodded. "Proceed." Rex was guided to the center of the room. No leash, no commands, just presence. The man, the defendant, sat stiff in his chair. The moment Rex's eyes met his, something cracked. The man's breathing changed. His shoulders tightened. Rex did not growl. He did not bark. He simply stared, and that was enough. The prosecutor spoke slowly, clearly. "Rex, show us what you do when you sense a threat." Rex turned, walked, stopped directly in front of Margaret, positioned his body between her and the defendant, sat, still, alert, protective. The courtroom held its breath. "Now," the prosecutor continued, "show us what you do when the threat moves." The man shifted in his seat, just slightly. Rex reacted instantly, not with aggression, with precision. He stepped forward, blocked, stared again. The man's composure collapsed. "That dog knows me," he snapped. "He's trained to intimidate." The judge slammed the gavel. "Order!" But the damage was done, because everyone had seen it. Margaret's lawyer stood next. "Mrs. Ellison," she said gently, "do you remember the nights you felt unsafe?" Margaret hesitated. "I don't remember everything," she admitted softly. "But I remember Rex not sleeping." She looked down at him. "He stayed awake for me when I couldn't." The expert witness followed. "A canine behavior specialist. Service dogs can detect subtle changes in routine, scent, movement, and stress," he explained. What Rex demonstrated was not confusion. It was recognition based on prior threat exposure. He turned toward the jury. "In simple terms, This dog remembered what humans missed. The defense tried once. Just once. They suggested coincidence, misinterpretation, fear. The jury didn't buy it. Neither did Rex. When the verdict was read, Margaret didn't cry. She exhaled. For the first time in weeks. For the first time in years. Rex leaned against her leg, grounded, steady, finished. Outside the courthouse, reporters gathered. Cameras flashed. Questions flew. Margaret didn't answer. She didn't need to. Rex stood beside her, vest back on, head high. That evening they returned home. Margaret unlocked the door slowly. Nothing felt threatening now. The house was quiet, safe. Rex walked the perimeter once, checked doors, windows, then returned to her side. Job complete. As the sun set, Margaret sat in her chair. Rex lay at her feet. She reached down, brushing her fingers through his fur. "They thought I was confused," she whispered. Rex's tail thumped once. They were wrong. The house felt different after the trial. Not quieter, but lighter. Margaret noticed it the first night she slept without the hallway light on. She woke up once, confused for a moment, unsure of the time or the place. That familiar panic rose in her chest, the kind that comes when memory hesitates. Before fear could take shape, she felt it. Warmth, weight. Rex's body pressed gently against the side of her bed, his breathing slow and steady, grounding her back into the present. "You're here," she whispered. Rex lifted his head, eyes calm, certain. In the weeks that followed, neighbors stopped avoiding her. They waved, they smiled. Some brought meals, others brought questions, but none brought fear anymore. They had read the story. They had seen the footage. They had learned the truth. Margaret Ellison wasn't confused. She had been protected. A letter arrived one morning, stamped with an official seal, the police department. Inside was a single page and a photograph. The page read, "In recognition of extraordinary service rendered beyond duty, retirement status is hereby revoked and replaced with honorary active service." Below it, a line Margaret read twice before it sank in. "Rex will remain with his handler for life." Her hands trembled. She pressed the paper to her chest. "He chose me," she said softly. Rex wagged his tail. Slow, certain. The ceremony was small. No speeches, no crowd. Just a few officers, a trainer, a quiet backyard. The vest was placed over Rex one last time, not because he needed it, but because it mattered. Margaret knelt with effort, gripping Rex's shoulders. "They thought you were too much," she whispered. Rex licked her cheek. "They thought you were wrong." Another lick. "They didn't know you were remembering for me." That night, Margaret did something she hadn't done in years. She slept deeply. No nightmares, no sudden waking, because the memories she couldn't hold on to anymore. Rex held them for her. Months passed. Margaret's memory still faded in places. Some days she forgot names, other days she forgot dates, but she never forgot Rex. And Rex never forgot his job. He walked beside her, sat between her and strangers, watched doors, listened at night. Always alert, always gentle. One afternoon, a young officer stopped by. "I just wanted to say," he said quietly, "I hope someone looks out for me like that someday." Margaret smiled. "He doesn't look out for me," she said. "He remembers who I am when I can't." That evening, as the sun dipped low, Margaret sat on the porch. Rex lay at her feet. A breeze moved through the trees. For a moment, everything was still. She reached down, resting her hand on his head. "They thought I was alone," she said. Rex looked up at her. "They were wrong, because some guardians don't bark, some don't bite, some don't leave. They stay, they remember. And when the world forgets someone, they refuse to. If this story moved you, don't just scroll past. Tap like, share it with someone who believes loyalty has no age, and subscribe for more stories where love, memory, and courage collide. Some heroes don't wear uniforms anymore. They wear patience and four paws.